Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Community Board 2's February 2024 for full board meeting. It is now 6:37. My name is Susan Kent. I am the board chair. We do have a quorum, so we're going to begin the meeting. We're going to start with actually, we first have to start with attendance. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Hi. Aaron, Susanna? Here. Ashley Gilla? Oh. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
Was that yes or no for you?
Akela? Okay. Vinesh, William?
Here.
Burger Keen, sorry, Keen. That's Keen. Keen? Yeah. Booth Carter?
Here,
Are you remote or in person?
yes, I'm remote.
You're remote. Katie Bordenaro?
Here, remote.
Yep, I got you. Anita Brandt? Yeah. Amy Brenna, yes. Rich Cacapolo, I see you remote.
Here.
3-2 is, Rep Chattree is absent with notice. Valerie De La Rosa? Here. Chris Dignas? Mara Fitzgerald? Stella Fitzgerald's absent with notice. Cormac Flynn?
Here.
Susan Gammy? Here. David Gruber?
Here.
Ann Hager? Here. Julian Horkey? Wayne Wadler? He left the board. All right, I have a sheet. Okay. Zach Kazaz, I see you remote.
Here, yep.
I hear you. Susan Kent?
Present.
Ryder Kessler?
Here.
Janine Kiley?
Here.
Ivy Kwan Arcee is absent with notice. Patricia Laria? Here. Michael Levine, I see you remote.
Here, remote, thank you.
Thank you. Ed Ma, I see you.
Here, remote.
Thank you. Matt Metzger?
He wants a roll call.
Daniel Miller?
Bo, you're out of order. We just started. You're already out of order.
Daniel Miller? Nope. Erica Olson? Juan Osorio? I know. Oh, I thought, is he definitely off? Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was official. Okay. Yeah, he's absent. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So. All right, hold on. Okay, Brian Pape. Don Raftery. Lois Rakoff. Barbara Cabono.
Here,
Zach Roberts is absent with notice. Marcia Sands is absent with notice. Shirley Secunda. Here. Kristen Shea is absent with notice. Frederica Siegel. Yeah, here. Anna Smith. Here. Dr. Shirley Smith. Present. Chanel Spence is remote.
Here.
Thank you. Susan Wittenberg. Here. Anthony Wong is absent with notice. Eugene Yu.
Here.
Okay. No. Yeah, so we have four.
Thank you, Amy. Next is a public session, which will be run by the first vice chair, Valerie De La Rosa.
Thank you. So we have just a couple of speakers this evening. So we're going to start out with our non-agenda items in person. Then we will go to Zoom for our, yes. So first I have Jesse Ziegler. Are you here, Jesse? Okay, Jonah Reeder. Are you here? And if I call your name, please come up to the microphone. Raphael Schweitzer. You're here. Darlene Lutz. And you have 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening. Good evening, panel. Good evening, everyone in the room. And on Zoom, I am Darlene Lutz. I'm here on behalf of the First Precinct Community Council. Also, I'm a long time resident of Community Board 2. The first precinct council meeting for the month of February is next Thursday, February 29th. All of our meetings now will be in person. It starts at 6 p.m. at the precinct, which is 2 blocks below Canal on Varick Street, 16 Erickson Place. I think that's pretty much it, except for I wanted to give a shout out to one of the community board members that has been doing the yeoman's work that I am in awe of, which is Donna Rafferty. Donna, your endless work with the SLA is really saving our community. So thank you for everything. Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. Next, we're gonna go to Lois Rakoff. I'm sorry?
I submitted 2 pieces of paper for 2 different activities.
Okay, that's fine.
Goody. Okay, the first one that I'm going to talk about is tomorrow, Friday, February 23rd at 4 p.m. The Gouverneur Hospital will have an advocacy day. It will be visual. And it's actually directed to State Senator Brian Kavanaugh and Assembly Member Grace Lee. We are in need of renovation for the Judson Gotham Health Clinic on 34th Street, 34 Spring Street. It's an LGBTQ plus and bridge from child to adolescent to adult clinic, and we need renovation for the 2nd floor. And I'm the CB2 rep to Gouverneur Health. Oh, I have more time. Okay, the next one is separate. I'm the community director of the Edgar Allan Poe Room, and we need participants who wish. This is April 12th. We're having our Poe Room event. It's free to the public, and we have entertainment, and I need participants, anyone who wishes to read, participate, create a skit, do a puppet show, anything, a dance about Edgar Allan Poe. And is Dorothy Slater here? No, she's my liaison from NYU. Well, if you hear this and you're on over there, just slip me a note or get in touch with me. And it's April 12th, but we need participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. I'm gonna call on Jesse Ziegler again if you're in the audience, or Jonah Reeder, or Raphael Schweitzer. And then I guess we'll just wrap up the in-person with our first agenda item, then we'll go to everyone on Zoom. Eileen Hill Reese, are you here? And then we'll go to Pete Davies next. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eileen Hill Reese. I'm here with my husband Stan Reese, and we're just here to represent the residents of 48 Great Jones Street, who unanimously and very strongly support the community board's decision or resolution to deny the application of our next door neighbors for a poorly conceived and inappropriate liquor license and use of what used to be the Jones Cafe. Some of you may remember that. We feel that, they say that they want to develop a family-friendly restaurant. A family-friendly restaurant that's open till midnight or 2 or 4, like some of the other bars around us. It doesn't compute. They have serious problems, and it's a transfer application, by the way, and the previous restaurant has continued to have serious problems with venting and fumes and an illegal ventilation system, which they say they can't change. They're proposing to double the size of their patronage. And so that means more food is going to be prepared. And they also are saying that they want to stay open later. I just want to say that we're up to the limit in that part of the neighborhood in terms of liquor licenses. Within 500 feet, we have 4 bars that are open until 4 AM, 2 AM and 4 AM. And within 500 feet, we have 4 restaurants, which are well managed and only open from 10 to 11. We are experiencing, my husband and I have been there for 50 years. What we're experiencing now is basically what we had in the 70s.
Thank you, Eileen.
People in the front hall, you know, peeing in the front, in our doorway, and drunks passing out. And we don't want to see that continue.
Thank you for your testimony, Aileen. Next we have Pete Davies.
Good evening, Pete Davies. I'm speaking about Street Activities Permits Office. Wanted to thank the committee for their good meeting they had this last month. Excuse me. It was interesting to hear SAPO representatives speak about the way they are now interpreting the rules. If you look at the rules of SAPO, you'll find that they haven't really changed the rules of it in recent years. But of course, we have a change of administration. We have a change of personnel. We have a change of the way that they are viewing the rules and the way they are implementing the rules. Some of this allows for less regulation. It allows for broader use of the public space. Some of which is really cheap to get. If you're going for a small event, it doesn't cost you much. We have one coming up next Thursday in Soho that they say will only generate, the applicant says, a couple hundred people. It happens to include a world-renowned artist who has 3.8 million followers on social media. It will be appearing for autographs next Thursday afternoon and so on. What that will turn into, who knows? But this is being, hopefully SAPO, maybe they'll reject that because of the information that was given to them by the committee. But they can say, oh, we're only have a couple hundred people. And they pay a very small amount. And then the community has to deal with the repercussions. So anyway, thank you very much for your time, and my time's up.
Thank you, Pete. So next we're going to go to our speakers on Zoom. So if Rebecca Kakina is on, I didn't see her on there. So I do see John Patino is on. So John, if someone could elevate John Patino, I see him in the participants list. If you could do that, that would be great. I don't have a direct connection.
Hi,
Great. 2 minutes. Thanks.
I'm John Patino. I'm the architect for the proposed renovation to 230 West 11th. And I just wanted to thank the community board for their consideration of the project and so that we look forward to the renovation of this beautiful residence. And if there's any further information that anyone needed, to feel free to contact us.
Great. Thank you, John. Next, we have Leslie Clark. Leslie, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm with West Village Residents Association, as I am concerned about what is going to be happening when restaurants start applying for sidewalk cafes and roadway cafes under the new rules. As you know, they have give the community board just 40 days, which is not anywhere near enough for an area that has as many potential sidewalk cafe applications and roadway applications as we will have. I just saw a DOT presentation to the Hospitality Alliance in which they are encouraging people to get their applications in as quickly as possible. That's March 2nd, it would start until August 5th, August 2nd of this coming year. And I am just here to ask a question, which is, what are CB2's plans for handling these hundreds of applications in a ridiculously short period of time? You have my sympathy. I'm just here to ask the question so I can prepare along with my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. I'm happy to answer that question. So we have been working both with the mayor's office and with DOT of streamlining our process. If you look at the March calendar, we have 2, and when I say we, I mean the outdoor dining working group has 2 meetings scheduled. The DOT has 10 business days to send those applications to us, and then from then that 40-day or 30-day period, review period starts. One is a comment period and one is an official review period. So those will start once we receive those, and we have a set of processes in place, and we look forward to working with both operators and residents to process these objectively and quickly. Thank you. If there's anyone else that I have not called on that signed up for the public session, if you're an elected official or elected official rep, Susan will be handling that in just a few minutes. So I'm just going to check on the names that I have listed: Jesse Ziegler and Jonah Reeder or Raphael Schweitzer. And if there's anyone else who is here in the room or on Zoom that believes that they signed up to give public testimony and I have not called on, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I see there's one person, Joel Greenberg and Jack Boys. If someone could elevate them, and we will go through those 2, and then we will close out the public session. If someone could elevate them, I'm not a co-host, so I can't make it.
I'm here. Joel Greenberg's here.
Joel, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My place of business is the newsstand on the corner of 6th Avenue and 8th Street. 20 years ago, when I opened it, I was thrilled to have the newsstand on the corner of one of my absolute favorite neighborhoods in New York City. It was deja vu for me. In 1906, when I was 13 years old, my parents allowed me to take the D train from the Bronx every weekend to 8th Street Station. And from there, I would walk up to the Marshall Chess Club. It was safe in those days, and it was a wonderful experience for me. When I opened the newsstand located at 8th Street and 6th Avenue a little over 20 years ago, it was still a great, safe neighborhood. As you know, the corner has changed and the whole neighborhood has changed. I am here to address the drug sales that seem to be going on year after year at 6th Avenue and 8th Street. I'm probably not the first person that will bring this up, and I probably won't be the last. I can't figure out why the community and the police can't stop it. It's a blight on this beautiful neighborhood. Commercial stores and business sustain the neighborhood. It expresses the character of the neighborhood and is also considered the heartbeat of the neighborhood. Barnes & Noble left on the corner in 2012, and it has taken 10 years for the new commercial tenant to arrive. It's a prime corner. Thank you, Spectrum. People are intimidated walking past the corner to go somewhere, intimidated walking to the subway station. Not only are drugs sold, but the people that hang out there are stoned on drugs, nodding out and standing with their pants sometimes halfway down. They just hang out there to see who they can intimidate. And
Joel, if you could wrap up, very quickly.
Okay, it's not the drugs. So to wrap it up, of course, I'm losing sales. the heart, the health of the neighborhood has definitely affect my sales. Am I heartbroken to see what has happened to the neighborhood? Absolutely.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you.
So my question is, what can be done?
Thank you. This has been heard by our committee chairs as well as our chair, and this is something I know that is being actively addressed across a variety of areas. Thank you very much for your testimony. Next. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see. Could you pass the microphone? Oh, let me. Oh.
I just wanted to give you some information. The Village Alliance Business Improvement District has been working on this problem and having meetings, and it might be a good idea to get in touch with them. It's the Village Alliance is on East 8th Street, east of University Place. I think it may even be 80 State Street. But anyhow, they are the Business Improvement District, and they have been working with the businesses and holding meetings with police department and others to try to find solutions to this problem. So I recommend that you get in touch with them.
Joel, I'm gonna, if you can put your, I'll put the CB2 email address in the chat. If you can send an email, and then we'll connect you in the office with the Village Alliance. Thank you, Shirley. I think we had one more person that had raised their hand to speak. I don't remember their name. Was it Jack Boyce? Jack, you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm Jack. I'm the intern at Senator Kavanaugh's office. Our office just has a few points to
Okay, Jack, I did not know you were with an elected official's office, so
Right.
if you could just pause for 1 second and hang out. I'm gonna close our public session and our chair, Susan Kent, will take over the elected official report. So with that, I'm closing the public session. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are done with the public session. Thank you, Valerie. Next item is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt? And second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Next are reports and we will to the public, starting with our elected officials. I would like to start with those, since there are no actually elected officials present or online, I will start with reps who are currently here with us in person. Is there anybody? Roy is here? So actually, anybody, any reps, please come to the front so we can have you go smoothly one after another. And when you're ready, the first person can start. There's a microphone up there. I just want to remind you folks to also have 2 minutes each.
Hi, good evening. My name is Roy Ruiz. I'm with the Office of Assembly Member Deborah Glick. Deborah was really thrilled to share that her bill, the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act, which she sponsors along with Senator Arkham, has passed the Environmental Conservation Committee, and she's very hopeful that it can pass both houses. That legislation would incentivize sustainable packaging, has mandatory reductions and bans processes that produce toxin byproducts, including so-called advanced recycling, and reduces toxins and packaging. It also would require manufacturers to finally share the responsibility of their packaging waste and provide necessary funding relief for local governments. For more information about our updates, I have some of these packages out there, and we have a link, and you can email me, and I'll be right around so you can have my email, and then I'll provide it for you. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Hi, I'm Caroline Wexelgum. I'm with State Senator Brad Hoylman Segal. It's great to be here. We have a board report available in the back and hopefully online probably tomorrow. So I wanted to highlight a few community events that we're holding. We're having a free opioid overdose education training next Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. It's a little bit out of CB2. It's on 46th Street. But it should be a really, really interesting event. We're also seeking nominees for our Veterans Hall of Fame. It's something the Senate does every year. So if you have a wonderful veteran to nominate and they live in the 47th State Senate District, which you can see by visiting our website, it would be great to hear from you. I also wanted to highlight a program that was funded in last year's budget and will hopefully be funded in this year's budget called the Securing Communities Against Hate Crimes Grant Program. And this grant was just released and it basically helps organizations that might be the targets of hate crimes to invest in capital improvements to help with their physical security. Outside of that, everyone probably knows the state budget is being negotiated. We have, again, a fantastic report tonight. We are fighting for a variety of things, but one thing that Senator Hoylman Segal is especially interested in is family court. So we're making a very big push to expand the resources available at family court. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caroline. Any questions? Seeing none? Our next speaker.
Hello, my name is Biani Rodriguez and I'm from the Office of Councilmember Carolina Rivera. I know that some of you mentioned West 8th Street and 6th Avenue. I just wanted to let everybody know that our office is aware of the quality of life concerns in this area. And as a result, we're planning a walkthrough of the area with local stakeholders such as the Village Alliance, the precinct, CB2, homeless outreach, and we will be discussing homelessness, substance abuse, sale of illegal substances, and sanitation concerns. So please, if you have any concerns in the area, I encourage everybody to contact our office just so we are aware. Council member has also introduced resolutions against the proposed closing of Mount Sinai Beth Israel. We have also introduced resolutions related to moped sales. We're also having a tax prep event on March 7th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 200 Avenue C. So I encourage everybody to contact our office and make an appointment. Thank you.
Susan,
Yes, question.
can I suggest you get in touch with the gentleman who spoke tonight? Vendor, so that he knows something's going on.
Yes, if he's still on, can you please contact the office of Councilmember Carolina Rivera? Our email is district2@council.nyc.gov and you can address it to me. My name is Biani Rodriguez and I am the CB2 Liaison and Community Outreach Director. Thank you.
Anything else, Biani?
No, that's it.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Connor from Councilmember Marte's office. A late happy Lunar New Year to everybody. I'll just go over a few updates from the last month. As the council begins to reintroduce legislation from the last year, our office has been reworking and refining some of our bills to make them as effective as possible once reintroduced. One bill that we have been able to reintroduce yet already requires the Department of Sanitation to provide photographic evidence of violations as they're recorded and issued to provide more transparency to that process. As you may be aware, the council recently voted to override 2 vetoes by the mayor concerning police interaction reporting as well as solitary confinement. And the council member feels particularly proud to vote to end solitary confinement in New York City. The council is also suing the mayor for his attempt to evade administering expansion of city FEPS vouchers and their access after the council passed legislation last year. In terms of the budget, the last day to submit discretionary funding applications was this past Tuesday. So we're now reviewing submissions to commence making our allocations. Additionally, schools are currently submitting applications for RESOA funding. These applications are due February 29th. For land use items, thank you to everyone who's able to testify at the City Planning Commission public hearing late last month on zoning for economic opportunity. Councilmember gave testimony as well, highlighting his main concerns and followed up with a list of our recommended modifications. We're continuing to meet with DCP and council land use on how these modifications might be implemented before the council votes on the item. One of the items you'll be discussing tonight, I believe, the green fast track for housing proposed rule change is also on our radar. And the council members submitted comments earlier this week. I know you'll talk about it later, but the rule change is would exempt many residential developments which require land use action from any environmental review under the city environmental quality review process. We have serious concerns over this proposal. And then just wrapping up, we had a Black History Month ceremony with Assemblymember Ball and District Leader Mariama James, and that was a very powerful event. So if you came, thank you for attending. And the Lunar New Year Parade is happening this Sunday. And if you'd like to march with a council member, you definitely can. We're going to be starting at 12:30 Hester and Mott. So feel free to reach out to us if you need more information. And there's also a registration link that we can share if needed.
Thank you, Connor. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jasper, and I'm here representing Assembly Member Grace Lee. The Assembly Member is in Albany with her colleagues working on the state budget right now, which includes recently a series of budget hearings with the committees that she sits on, including the Housing Committee and the Environmental Conservation Committee. A big item for the budget for Assemblymember Lee is the Hate Crimes Modernization Act that she introduced Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel this last fall. Governor Hochul has signaled her support for this bill to include it in the budget. This bill essentially modernizes New York's hate crime statute to include a series of crimes that have been observed, a series of hate crimes that have been observed to take place in New York recently against vulnerable minority communities, but that currently is not included, not eligible to be included under a hate crimes definition. We have also been spending the month with the Asian American communities across the city and state celebrating Lunar New Year, which is extra special for us this year, considering the legislation Assemblymember Lee passed last year to make Lunar New Year a statewide school holiday. We will be marching on Sunday, and as well, we'll be hosting a Lunar New Year parade breakfast beforehand for leaders from our community. For Black History Month, well, as an intersection between Black History Month and Lunar New Year, we held an event called Stronger Together with Senator Jamal Bailey, which is a panel to reflect on the history of solidarity between the Black and Asian communities in New York, and to talk about ways to move forward together, to work together to continue to support vulnerable communities in New York. That is all from me. If anybody has any questions?
Yes, I see hands. Today, I'm sorry, let Keen and then Lois, sorry.
Yeah.
No, wait, we do need it because in order for the recording to be.
I just want to know what kind of hate crimes weren't in the bill and might be coming now, and why didn't we have? Tell us about that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So the legislation basically expands the number of crimes underneath the statute. There are crimes that are almost common sense examples of hate crimes that were not in the original statutes. First degree murder, first degree rape were not included in the original statutes. So that means that if a murder, first degree murder, was committed with bias, intent, with hate in mind, under current statutes, it would not be eligible to be considered a hate crime just because it's omitted from that original list. And then things like graffiti, we can there's a full list that we can forward your way if you would like. But yeah, the idea was that it was very common sense omissions that we recognize, working with the Manhattan District Attorney, that we recognize were commonly taking place across New York and occasionally within our communities that just weren't on that original list.
What else did the list?
Different times.
Thank you. And Lois, please.
Hi, I'm the CB2 rep to Gouverneur Health. And tomorrow on Friday, at 4 p.m., there is an advocacy day and it's targeted towards not targeted towards, but we would like the assembly member or you or another representative to come on. Because we're talking about the needs to improve Gouverneur and in CB2 to improve 34 Spring Street, which is Judson Gotham Health Clinic that serves the needs for this community and LGBTQ plus, and it's a bridge program. Did you receive the link for tomorrow's advocacy day?
I'm not aware that we have. I can check with our schedule, but I have not heard of it.
Could you please look and
And if you'd like to connect, I can make sure that we give it to our schedule.
thank you. Do you have a business card or something like
Yeah,
that?
I have it on my, I'll go get it.
Okay, and give it to me, please.
Of course.
So I could send it to you and I could also send you my report and my report to Suzanne.
Sure, yeah, we'd love to.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lois. Okay, I see no other questions and there are no other reps present, so I'm going to go online.
Thank you,
And
guys.
Jack, you're next.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jack. I'm an intern with Senator Kavanaugh's office. I just have a few things to bring up. As it was said before, but we're also looking for nominations for this year's Veterans Hall of Fame. If anyone here knows a veteran who lives in Lower Manhattan and has distinguished themselves in both military and civilian life, please contact our office and let us know. Additionally, we held 2 info sessions recently about congestion pricing, where we heard from the MTA and took public questions and comments. We will formally submit a summary of the public concerns to the MTA as they begin to wrap up their community engagement process. You can submit your own comments during any of the upcoming hearings that are taking place on February 29th, so a week from today, March 1st and March 4th. I can also provide a link in the chat to a website that has more details on that. And finally, our office wants to let people know that there are free mammogram screenings. The American Italian Cancer Foundation's mobile no-cost breast cancer screening program, which provides mammograms and clinical breast exams to uninsured and medically underserved New York City women, is scheduled to conduct screenings in the neighborhood. On Sunday, March 10th, the mammogram bus will be at the Campos Community Center, located at 611 East 13th Street from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. If you wish to schedule a no-cost mammogram appointment, please call 1-877-628-9090. I can also put that in the chat. That'll be hosted by Harvey Epstein's office. I'll also leave some contact info for our CB2 liaison, Stacy, and again, the details about the MTA sessions coming up soon. That's all.
Thank you, Jack. Are there any yes, Cormac has a question.
Yeah, Jack, I was just wondering, the nominations for the Veterans Hall of Fame, do they specifically have to be living veterans or can they be veterans from the community?
I don't believe so, no. Contact our office and we can discuss it further.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any additional questions? No. So let's go to Nicole.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Just a few updates on our end. We, at the end of January, we announced, I just lost it. Sorry, gang. Well, I'll get it back in a minute. Starting with something else, legislation alert. The council member announced the water bottle refill fountains at fire hydrant legislation. He's introduced this legislation, which would require the city to install water bottle refilling fountains at fire hydrants, beginning with 5 in each borough. So that we're very hopeful about that. We are continuing our series of conversations with the council member. Next week, we are going to have a conversation with the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry. And the topic is, how did Minneapolis tame housing costs? That is going to happen next Tuesday, February 27th at 5 p.m. I will put my information in the chat so that if you want to contact our office and sign up for that. Also wanted to let everybody know that we continue to have ongoing housing clinics the second Tuesday of each month. We also have our ongoing rent freeze clinic, which is the second Thursday of each month. I also wanted to let everybody know that we kicked off our I'm going to mess this up now because I don't have it in front of me, but slow your roll, respect the stroll. And we kicked off this campaign on the kiosks around District 3. It's a public awareness campaign, and it's urging cyclists to be mindful of pedestrian safety by yielding to pedestrians, avoiding biking on sidewalks, stopping at red lights, and refraining from biking against traffic. The campaign is appearing now all over District 3. I'm also going to include our most recent newsletter in the chat. And I think that's all I have for now. So thank you, everybody, and have a good month.
Thank you, Nicole. Are there any questions? I see none and I see no hands. Are there any other reps from our electeds who are online that I don't see? Please raise your hand if you are. Here we go. Oh, Andrew Chang is the next person. Okay, let's have him. Is he elevated?
Oh, there you go. Hey, Andrew.
Okay. These has to accept. Andrew, did you? I don't know. I see.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Great. Yes, we can, Andrew.
Hi. Thank you all for having me. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier. I'll be brief in my report for this evening. I just want to announce a few things. One is that community board applications are due tomorrow, Friday, February 23rd at 5 p.m. I have reached out to the community board members whose terms are up for renewal. And if you would like to reapply, or if you're a new applicant, please do apply by 5 p.m. tomorrow evening. Secondly, we're having our State of Borough on Sunday, March 3rd. It will be at the K Playhouse at Hunter College, and it will begin at 2 p.m. So it's 2 p.m. on Sunday, March 3rd at Clay Playhouse at Hunter College for the Manhattan Borough President's State of Borough address. And we also released a report regarding housing policies that we feel need to be accomplished this year in order to keep tenants in their homes. It's our 2024 Albany housing agenda. It's on our website in the policy and the initiative section. Just a few things that we're asking for. We're asking for the replacement of the 421A tax exemption. We want office conversions to be facilitated. We want the 12 FAR cap on residential development to be lifted. We want landlords. We want to ensure that landlords can only evict tenants for good cause. We want right to counsel statewide. and we want to strengthen right to counsel in New York City. You can read the whole report on our website as again regarding our housing agenda that we sent to Albany. And I will just leave it at that. And thank you for having me this evening.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Yeah, any questions? I see none, so I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, moving on. Next is the chair's report. Just a few items. As Andrew mentioned, the deadline for applications or reapplications is tomorrow. I just want to point out that there are several openings on the board. We are at below the 50 mark, so we definitely have people. We have spaces for new members, probably I think at least 5. So encourage everyone to consider who is not a member applying. For those who are not in a position to consider joining, I want to put a plug in for public membership. You know, for folks who are interested in particular issues, you can join a single committee. There is a 1-page application on our website. This month at Borough Board, there was a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 preliminary budget. The initial draft was based on feedback from all of the community boards, and many of the same issues were present that we identified in our district needs statement and our budget priorities. These include housing, healthcare access, education, public safety, and climate resiliency. When we see the next draft, we will comment as appropriate. Biani from Councilmember Rivera's office mentioned the walkthrough. I want to invite anyone who is interested in joining me in participating. It will be scheduled for some time in the first 2 weeks of March. And it is scheduled to start at the northwest corner of Washington Square Park. It will be in that area, addressing some of the issues that are particularly applicable to Washington Square Park and the vicinity. We are in our election cycle, and the district manager's report will discuss that in detail. Just point out that we're in the unique position of doing a hybrid election. So if there are any technical issues, please do not hesitate to bring them to our attention afterwards. Hopefully next month will run seamlessly. And lastly, I know that I have made this announcement several times, but it is incumbent on anyone who attends this meeting via Zoom that their cameras remain on. You must be seen as well as heard. Go henceforth, anyone who is marked present, but whose camera does not remain on substantively all of the meeting will have their attendance changed. If you're having a technical issue or other types of issue that require that camera not to be on, that's fine, but we need to know about it. But the idea that it is unfair to those who are attending in person to not be able to see their colleagues who are online. We want to excuse me, I was not quite finished. We want to accommodate you, but we want to set a single standard. And do I have a question or comment at this time?
You do, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Do you mind handing?
Yes, Mr. Metzger has a comment.
It's a large target.
So we can see you, please.
Can't see you on.
Okay. But
Okay, please.
I was wondering under what authority we're making that decision. Could we pass a rule or a rule?
Actually, no, it is not a rule change. The open meetings law requires that people to be present. They are seen and as well as heard, because it is the same standard as though you were physically present. To have your camera off without a justified reason for that is to appear only partially.
Amazing.
And of course, I want to be very
I was
reasonable.
wondering what percentage of the camera on or off would determine.
Well, it is actually ultimately something that would have to be determined on a case-by-case basis, but
Under what rubric are you deciding?
I am going to start from the presumption that your camera remains on all the time, and then we take it from there.
Okay. Reasonable.
And with that, that is the conclusion of my report, and I will turn it over to Mark for the DM report.
Thank you, folks. First, a big thank you to the Sheen Center for hosting us once again and for this seamless testing that they did today so that we can all hear one another. It's really terrific and we are grateful for that. Special thanks to Colleen, who arranged for it, Joe, who is our tech guru, and Christian, who is still with us. Thank you, Christian, as well as the rest of the staff. Big thanks. This is a beautiful location for us to meet, and thank you. Thank you for helping me thank them. So to pick up on the election theme, our bylaws call for the opportunity to self-nominate, and that self-nomination is directed to the district manager. So I now report that we have the following folks who have self-nominated for the following offices. For chair, Susan Kent. For first vice chair, Valerie De La Rosa. Second vice chair, Eugene Yu. Treasurer, Anthony Wong. Secretary, Emma Smith. Assistant Secretary, Brian Payton. Later on your agenda, you will see that the floor will again be opened for new nominations, and the chair and the leaders will take care of that. We will then be voting at the March meeting, and as the chair mentioned, we have a hybrid meeting planned for March, therefore we will need to have hybrid voting. And if I can possibly, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for a brief moment, and we can run a little test of this. Actually, I think some of the folks have already done it. So this is the ballot. It may look very familiar because it's the same as the ballot last year, just obviously some new names and some names deleted. You will be required to put in your email. That's how we check to make sure that it's really you. There will also be a code that you will put in for today's test. It just says test 2024, but there'll be a code generated for you if you're going to be voting online next month. And then there'll be a series of questions. Obviously, I didn't put in the real candidates because then, heaven forbid, someone thinks that we actually voted. So I put in a dummy question about, pick a historic district and pick a Hepburn. I know it's a hard choice. Anyway, so for those who are online right now and anyone who can do it in the room, I circulated the link for this. Please go ahead and do that and vote. And I will stop sharing my screen now. That was I circulated the link this afternoon in one of many times that I sent you the board package. So anyway, what that generates is a spreadsheet that tells us who you voted for, and it allows us to confirm the votes are correct. And in terms of confirming, that leads me immediately to the tally committee. The tally committee is spelled out in our bylaws, and it consists of the borough president's representative to our district. So Andrew Chang is an automatic member. And the others are a board committee chair and another elected representative. So I will be entreating another elected representative who will be with us next month to take up that part of it. But we still need a committee chair to step forward. Carter did it last year, so I think he should get a pass. But thank you in advance. This is how we count the votes. What we propose to do is have a paper ballot for those in the room. And of course, I'll finish one sentence before you start another one. Have a paper ballot, and we will then upload the, give me 1 second. Okay, so I go back here and show you that spreadsheet, what it looks like. So, looks like a pretty even split between Audrey and Catherine Hepburn. And what we will do is then upload manually the results of the paper ballots onto the same spreadsheet. So then by the end of the meeting, we should be able to confirm the results. And as you see, some folks are in fact using the online to come in and cast their votes. So thank you for helping us with the test. The test is proving that this works. By the way, the test is also required by the bylaws. Since this is a slightly different procedure than last year, the bylaws require that we run a test the month before. So now we have done that. So thank you for that. Let me see. Is there anything else we need to know about voting and procedure? No, that's it. Unless there are questions. Why don't I stop there for questions on election before I go anywhere else? Not seeing any, I'm going to continue. Okay, hi, Katie.
Yes, I think you should look at the first two lines of the spreadsheet. When it came through, my code was automatically populated, so I voted with the automatic code. And then I looked at it again and I realized it was another code and I voted with the code that came through. So I have two votes. So I think we have to guard against this double voting.
Thanks for that. That's why we have a tally committee. Last year, there were a couple of double votes and the tally committee caught it. So I'm not concerned, but thank you for that heads up. We'll make sure we do that. Go ahead.
Just to point out, the electronic ballot may go to everybody, but you can only obviously vote once. If you are here but have a laptop with you and you choose to vote electronically, that's fine. So just make sure that we will be counting that there's no second ballot, but that is an option. So.
Yep, thanks. And the point that I should have made but didn't is perhaps the most important, is that the election presupposes a meeting that is validly called. Therefore, even though there's an opportunity to vote online, the open meetings law still requires us to have a quorum either in person or those with a recognized eligible disability on Zoom. Anybody else on Zoom does not count toward quorum, and therefore we have to have a meeting in order to have an election. Thanks for that. A quick update on full board venues. We were going to meet in PS 41 next month, but they are undergoing an incredibly significant renovation that includes asbestos removal. And if I need to keep talking, it'll also be loud. So Igor, the custodian, gave me a heads up. I'm thankful to Patricia and Ann and others who have been chiming in about places where we can meet instead. And I'm hot on the trail, but this is the week in which the schools are on winter holiday. So I probably won't hear back until Monday on what our venue for next month will be. Following up on the budget issue, and now we're talking about the fiscal year 2025 city budget. Each of the committees has submitted materials that have found their way into the district needs statement and our statement of budget priorities. I have placed into the same Google Drive the results of the city budget process, where the agencies come back to us and tell us whether or not they think they can fund or accommodate our budget requests. I've placed a special folder for that with the agency requests right underneath whatever it is that the committee wrote. And I've sorted it both in terms of 1 to 25 of our ranked priorities. And I've also had a separate one where I do it by agency. So if you only care or interested in, say, a parks series of issues, you can look at parks and see what they said about each. No big surprise there. Most of the time they're telling us to go to our council member or the borough president to find funding because they don't have it. We already talked about the deadline to reapply. So that's my report unless there are any questions.
No questions. Thank you. Okay, that will end the public session. So we are now in business session. And we will start with a second attendance.
Got it. Aaron? I'm here. Ashley? Dinesh?
Here.
Keen? Here.
Booth,
Here.
Bordenaro,
Here.
Brandt. Here. Brenna, yes. Capolo,
Here.
Villa Rosa,
Here.
Dignas,
Ready.
Mar Fitzgerald. Here. Flynn,
Here.
Gammy. Here. Gruber,
Here.
Hager. Here. Corky. Kazaz. Are you remote still? Kent,
Present.
Kessler,
Here.
Laria. Here.
Did you get me? Kylie? I didn't hear my name.
I'm sorry, but I heard Patricia. Levine,
Here.
Ma,
Here.
Metzger,
Here.
Olson. Here. Osorio, no. Pape,
Present.
Raftery. Here. Racco. Here. Cabono,
Here.
Rotunda. Here. Siegel. Here. Smith, Emma Smith. Here. Present. Dr. Shirley Smith. Present.
I did.
Spence on the Zoom.
Here.
Wittenberg. Yeah, here. And you.
Present.
Great.
Sorry, this is Zach because I'm also here. I just couldn't. My internet dropped right when we got to my name.
No problem. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Fine.
Okay, thank you. Next item is election of officers. The test has been, has the test been done?
Yes.
Okay. As,
We did.
okay, thank you. So at this time, I am pursuant to our bylaws, I think it's section 8.2. I will be opening up the floor for additional nominations for each of the positions. Starting with chair, is there any nomination or self-nomination for the office of chair? Okay, seeing none, the nominations for that office are closed. Next is first vice chair. Are there any nominations from the floor or online for the office of first vice chair? I see no hands, so that is now closed. Next is office of second vice chair. Any nominations or self-nominations? Seeing none, that is now closed. Next is office of treasurer. Are there any nominations or self-nominations? Seeing none, that is now closed. Next is secretary. Any nominations or self-nominations? Okay, seeing none, that is now closed. And last is assistant secretary. Any nominations or self-nominations? Okay, seeing none, that is now closed. Our slate for next month's election has now been set. If there's any additional information, we will be providing it to you.
I'm sorry, I should have noted that you will always have an option to abstain from any one of the offices along the way. I should have mentioned that before. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Oh, questions?
There's talk about a paper ballot at exec. So did we talk about that here?
Yeah, there will be, for those who are physically at the meeting, there will be a paper ballot. To the extent that somebody who is physically present has a laptop and wishes to use the electronic voting, they may do so instead of a paper ballot. But yes, there will be paper ballots, which will be retained as part of our records. Yeah, that's the hybrid process that we are now dealing with. So, any other questions about elections at this time? Okay, thank you. Next item is approval of the January full board minutes. First, does anybody have any questions or problems with those minutes that they want to bring to our attention?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I have to note that, I don't think a number of the votes were in order. I have to raise it.
Do you have something specific in terms of correction?
All
All of them?
all of the ones that I would say, sorry, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, actually, we can't hear you at this time because, and we cannot see you. So you're gonna have to come up. And,
They can see me and they can hear me.
okay, now we can see and hear.
There we go. I was saying that, because of last, month's meeting, I, made a number of objections.
Mhm.
And they were, overruled in a fashion that I don't believe was in order. Therefore, I think the votes are in order. I know nothing's gonna change. I just have to raise the objection. I can give you the specific, items that I think are out of order.
Okay, well. I thank you for going on the record, and since that ruling will stand, that's the end of that issue. Are there any other, does anyone have any additional items with regards to the minutes? Seeing none, I will take a motion to approve. And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I'm sorry, there was one aye on that? Or is that? Oh, I'm sorry, who voted against the approval of the minutes, please? So I have a clear, we have a record. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You are
Was
voting,
my I misunderstood? Is it no?
okay, Chanel, thank you.
No, I mean, I'm
Yes,
for them.
Mr. Metzger is voting against the approval of the minutes. And are there any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Those are approved. Next is adoption of the calendar. It says we're approving March, April, and May. April and May are there for to assist people in evaluating what's coming down the road. We're only going to vote on the March calendar, but we've gotten into the practice of providing you with additional months for planning purposes and so that people can see where we're going. Is there any questions or any issues with the March calendar? Yes.
School is meeting on the 11th. It's not noted in the calendar.
It is in the calendar now.
It is?
The March calendar has schools and ed on the 11th. Any other item? Yes. This is just March. That's the only one we're voting on. The other two are just for knowledge. Seeing none, I will take a motion to approve the March calendar. And a second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstentions? That was an aye. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's now move to our standing committee reports, and we will start with landmarks.
We had one meeting and there was not a quorum present. The first application, 530 Broadway, application to establish a master plan regarding painted artwork on the northern secondary facade. Recommend approval of the permit for the painted wall art, provided that there is no advertising, no illumination, and no dimensional elements. Those are standard practices for wall art. 229 West 12th Street, modify a window on the upper level and add an additional window on the lower level of the south facade of a penthouse. Recommend approval of the window modifications as they're respectful of the historic building. 477 West Broadway, to construct an open structure for year-round dining over the existing patio. I want to be clear that this is a plot of land that adjoins a restaurant, which is entirely private property, and they lease that at present for what, except that it's not on the sidewalk, appears to be a sidewalk. cafe. And they want to make something more permanent on the building, but semi-permanent because it's not an actual building. That's rather technical. Be it resolved that CB2 recommends denial of the application as being a modern building without historic reference, rather than a light structure that preserves the spirit of outdoor dining and has historic reference to the neighborhood. 230 West 11th Street. Construct a new roof and bulkhead for the stairs. Install HVAC, construct a new cellar extensions, install new rear facade wall and windows, and replace the existing two-story rear addition. There's an error in the printed version, and I'll read whereas complete. The cellar is to be excavated 3 feet below the existing building with underpinnings and along the northern and western wall. Northern and are the added words. Recommend approval of the application as a careful, respectful restoration and modification of a typical high stoop West Village row house, provided that care is taken with the excavation and underground construction to ensure the integrity of the house and the neighboring structures. Susan, do you want to do this before we move on to the other things?
Yeah, let's, are there anyone want to discuss any of the items that were just, yes? Okay, please come forward so we can see and hear you. I see Susan, oh, I see 2 Susans actually.
Yeah, just one thing in that amendment in the whereas it's also a section we learned yesterday that is going to be underpinned, a small section of the eastern wall as well. So it's northern and eastern wall both need to be added to therefore I. Okay, Chanel?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
There was just difficulty in reading the plans. That's where the error was.
Hi, Chanel. In the wall, or where you mentioned no advertising, I just wanted to say to you that, there's on the corner of, the southwest corner of Broadway and Houston is the famous wall that was repainted recently. And I've noticed, oh, not that recently, but I've noticed that there've been like those digital projections on the wall as a form of advertising. And I was really shocked when I saw it. I thought, when we say no advertising, you think of wall signs and things, but I wondered if maybe you should be more specific about it, because this seems to be something that's happening and it's not permanent, they kind of come and go, unlike actual billboards, but when I've seen it at night recently, it was really covering most of the wall, and I had never seen that before. So I wanted to mention it to you, and I wanted to mention it to you anyway, but it came up specifically tonight.
We haven't had this before, and I was unaware of it. And
I was
I'm not
aware of it too.
sure
I
how
hadn't seen
that
it
can be
before.
addressed in the landmark.
Well, I thought of it because you specifically said no advertising, and this is a new.
I'm sorry, are you speaking are you speaking about this application?
Well, yes, because you use the word no advertising, and now I see that that actually might need to be a little more specific and mention, including new forms of advertising like digital walls, because when we think of advertising, or when we had been thinking of advertising up until now, it's mostly the painted things on walls, or that buildings allow on their walls. They actually allow ads on sides of buildings because they make money. But this was a wall mural, the famous mural on the corner of Broadway and Houston, that had one of those digital projections on it, which is an ad. And so it was the first I had seen it, and when I noticed it in your resolution, I thought it would be something that maybe you might be more specific about, because it's something new that you might
Are
not.
you on I'm sorry, are you talking about the letter?
I'm talking about the first issue in, the first item in your.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble here.
That's okay.
Um,
Where the wall mural, and you mentioned no advertising, and I'm letting you know
well, I
that,
understand.
whether you realize
I
now.
don't have objection. What I don't know is whether, because it's not a physical alteration of the building, whether that is a landmarks issue.
Well.
I somehow doubt that. I understand
Okay.
perfectly, and I couldn't agree more. But I would think that it's the fact that it's not a physical thing means it couldn't. Susan, do you?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a point to allay one of the other Susan's concerns. And that is that the, therefore says, right, there's no advertising, no illumination, and no dimensional elements. And illumination would certainly seem to cover anything that involves projection or anything of that sort, because that, of course, relies on illumination. Okay, that covers it then. That covers it, that's fine. I just wanted to point it out. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think that's all the questions with regards to those resolutions. Is there, I'm sorry, yes, Valerie.
I just wanted to point out on number 3 for 477 West Broadway. I apologize, Chanel, I didn't know if you had covered this or not. I was not at this meeting, so I did not vote on this, but I just, so everyone knows that the outdoor dining rules for historic districts and landmark buildings are actually out for public comment right now. There's a public hearing that DOT is holding March 19th, so I would say this is a premature application because those for the permanent program have not been set yet, so. Thank you.
Thank
Our
you.
understanding is that this does not fall under that because it is a patio, as it were, on private property. It's not roadbed and it's not sidewalk.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions or comments on these, I will, is there any objection to voting on these items? We have 1 through 4. If there's no objection, we can vote those 4 items as a block. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions or recusals? Okay, they all pass. Thank you. Okay, Chanel, anything else?
Okay, the 2 letters.
Yes.
The first letter is sorry, I'm just trying to find it. Is the base it's the new school needs to renew its auditorium, which is an interior landmark and one of very, very few in the district. And there was a deadline for their requesting a grant for that purpose. And the deadline has passed already. And for that reason, the committee approved and sent a letter supporting this grant. And so that is a report on something that has taken place and an explanation of why it did not come to the board for review. It was simply that we would not have been able to comment on it had we waited.
Go ahead, sorry.
Do you want to be questions on that before we go on, Susan?
Was there any question? Yes.
There was no quorum at the meeting, and yet the letter can go out.
That was it is correct that there was no quorum. That was the night that we had the storm. And what happened is that we had to make the decision that people should not be put at risk attempting to come in person. The letter had, it had been drafted because of the timeline. In fact, they approached us on the 30th of January and asked for a return date of the 12th. It was only even possible to have the committee even look at this because we made a request of a couple of extra days. It is technically correct that the committee wasn't constituted. But that was just the difficulty of the situation. Chenault, anything else?
The other letter, if that, is that one finished?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. It's a letter concerning a building at 821 Broadway, and it's, let me say it correctly, National and State Registers of Historic Places. There's been a request by the State Parks and Recreation Historic Preservation Committee, Board, whatever it is, to include this distinguished building. There are several things about it. It is a known architecturally intact building of the era, and it is in a district that there's a great movement about designating. I believe it's called below Union Square, south of Union Square. And this would be singling out that building for this designation. And this is, we're coming to ask the board to approve the sending of a letter in support of this.
Okay, any questions or discussion about supporting the sending of such a letter? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions or recusals? Abstain. We have one abstention from Ryder Kessler. Okay, thank you very much. And is there anything else in landmarks? Otherwise, we
Oh,
will.
that's it.
Thank you, Chenault. Next is land use and housing.
If I could give the report from here, if that's okay. Great. Thank you. So for land use and housing, there were two items when we met on February 14th. The first was 110 Christopher Street, which was an application to extend previously granted variance. This was laid over to next month to give the applicant an opportunity to flyer the building, and so that neighbors in the building were aware of the application. So if there were any other people that wish to come to the meeting, that they could come. So they will be coming back in March. So that was laid over. And the second item we had was the green fast track for housing. So this is a proposed rulemaking from DCP. This is designed to streamline the process for new housing applications, and there's a certain number of criteria that DCP is looking to add to basically grant what's called a type 2 classification, which would exempt housing projects from seeker and SECRA, and that would streamline their application. In general, we find that any of these attempts to streamline the process and reduce community board input are sometimes problematic. And so because of that, we resolved to recommend approval of it with the following conditions. There are 7 conditions which we believe are fairly straightforward. First, that DCP conduct a pilot program of 3 to 5 years, during which time community boards would automatically receive a type 2 memo. And so that's a memo which would have a written notice for each type 2 project, including the project's application, including the description of the project description and plans, a detailed planning rationale for approving the type 2 status, which is the exemption. with the correspondence with the relevant agents tasked with evaluating the various environmental impacts, all approvals, and 45 days to review the application and make a recommendation to DCP. Second, we ask that DCP not exempt residential development in manufacturing districts. Not only should our city's manufacturing districts be protected in general, but in our particular case in CB2, our district is home to many large commercial buildings that could be converted to residential use because of our manufacturing history. But because of their size and proximity to many small-scale historic and residential districts, could have a consequential environmental impact. Third, we ask that DCP find more and better ways to offer a more nuanced approach to addressing and mitigating the cumulative effects of multiple projects in the same area at the same time, meaning when these projects are coming through, to take a look at the combined effects of these rather than just project by project. Fourth, we ask that DCP identify specific mechanisms to prevent applicants who own large sites with multiple housing opportunities from deliberately segmenting larger projects so that they appear to be individual projects under the 250 unit and 175 unit thresholds and not subject to the seeker process. So these are the thresholds that DCP is suggesting for exempting large projects from the seeker process. And we are asking that DCP prevent developers from making the projects appear that they would be under that limit by somehow cutting up the application into smaller projects. The fifth ask is that should the Green Fast Track for Housing pass, projects in historic districts should continue to go through a full LPC review as opposed to a staff level review before being found eligible for fast tracking. CB2 recommends that if they are found eligible, LPC should generate a type 2 memo with the same type 2 content recommended in our first resolve number 1 above, which is the agency correspondence and the rationale for the determination that there are no impacts on historic and archaeological resources. And that this also be sent to all community boards with the same 45-day timeframe for comment. We also ask that LPC be given sufficient additional funds specifically earmarked to enable it to thoroughly process the resulting increased workload. We're very sensitive to LPC being not having the proper funding and staffing. They're already understaffed. And as the community board with the most historic districts of all the 59 community boards in the city, we're very sensitive to that. The sixth ask is that the list of coastal risk districts, none of which are currently in CB2 Manhattan, be expanded to include the sites in the current and future floodplain, future being the year 2100. The seventh and last ask is that all projects subject to seeker, not just type 2, be required to demonstrate in a detailed fashion that they are complying with the mandates of local law 97. This is because some of the rationale that DCP has given for Green Track for Housing is that this is for climate change. And so we ask that projects that go through demonstrate that they are compliant with the local law 97, which is going to require that all buildings be carbon neutral by 2050. This passed unanimously, and that is our one resolution for February.
Thank you, Eugene. At this time, anyone wants to discuss this, has questions? Yes, we have yes, Chris.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have a blind spot. I can't see below. Who is speaking? It's Shirley. Thank you, Shirley.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can she be seen on camera?
No.
Otherwise, you may have to move over. Oh. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. I have a very simple question. The Department of City Planning is do this proposal for fast tracking to address New York City's housing crisis. But there doesn't seem to be any reference to affordable housing. And I was just wondering, should I put it in some way, some requirement? I don't know myself. So let me just give this back to you.
Thank you, Shirley. So you're asking whether our response should include something about affordable housing or the DCP proposal?
Or they don't exempt the small and medium sized units. Should they can't do you.
Yeah, you can't. Sure, yeah, why don't you just stay at the mic over there?
Okay, whatever. They are saying that they are proposing the fast tracking for small and medium sized units, but they do not say anything about really whether this will facilitate affordable housing. Although they say that this is an attempt to, but it's not demonstrated. So I just wondered, is there a way for us to comment? Is there anything that we should be saying?
I'm just gonna repeat
them to that.
I'm just going to repeat this so that everyone who's online can hear. Shirley is asking about the absence of any mention of affordable housing in this fast track process and whether or not that should be something that we consider in our response. Am I correct, Shirley?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah,
Thank you.
because they have no obviously.
Okay.
They should be considering.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think there's nothing explicit in what DCP has put forward. You know, they do say that part of the exemption is, if we look in the whereas section number 4, I think that's the closest that DCP comes to it, where they say that projects that are in agreement with a Department of Housing and Preservation and Development item. So it looks like that's the one link that they're putting to your projects that, you know, would be affordable because they would be developed by HPD, presumably. But yeah, you're right. We in our response, we didn't really talk about it. You know, we're merely saying that you know, while this is it's a good idea to try and streamline some of these, we really want to make sure that we're not losing out on any valuable information. You know, it's really not that much. We really didn't feel like it was that much of an undertaking to have a developer go through seeker. And the documents that they generate are usually very valuable because the EAS document that comes out, there's a lot of valuable information that's in there, and we're going to be deprived of that for any of these that just go through and they're fast tracked, and we have no idea how they were fast tracked. We have no records of anything that comes through that we can look back on later. So that's what we're just asking for. We're asking for that type 2 memo, which is going to have a lot of that same information if they do fast track these. And you know, we are agreeing with their thresholds, which are the 250 units in certain, you know, in a R5, R10 district, and 175 in R1, R4, R1 to R4. We don't have any R1 to R4, so yeah, for us it would be the 250 unit threshold. Would you like to propose an amendment?
She said she's not sure what to propose.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go on to the next question.
Thank you.
You can always come back to Shirley if there's something she wants to add. Chris, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, hi. So the solution to homelessness is homes, and I think that kind of addresses in a little bit of a different way what you're talking about, Shirley. Yeah, we kind of just need to have homes, and the fast track is a great solution for it. I know the personal problem for me is, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but I've personally seen a homeless man burned alive for being homeless. So that's why I'm not going to be voting in favor of number 2. And then the reason you guys shouldn't be voting in favor of number 2 is because the day that any person in New York City is most likely to be homeless is the day they're born. And so we should be building homes so that we can have people not be homeless here. That's kind of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Next, Brighter.
Sorry, I didn't actually raise my hand. Yeah, I want to
That's
expand.
okay. We like you. We'll listen to you.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I want to expand a little bit on what Chris said. I think the resolution here indicates a lack of urgency around building housing, which I wish the board had a more aggressive attitude about. And a kind of, I think it's clear that there isn't a lot of appetite to fast track these projects. This policy is about environmental review and the study of 1,000 applications for types of developments like this found no adverse environmental impact for these kinds of projects. These are projects that are all electric, not fossil fuel. They're small. They're exactly the kind of things that we know after thousands of environmental reviews that they are not adversely impactful. The streamlining of them then is a big boon. This is rules that if they had been in effect for the last 10 years would have resulted in 12,000 more homes being constructed than were, and would reduce the cost of these developments by $100,000 each, which means that it's affordable to build more. I think to Chris's point, like we are in a severe housing shortage in New York. There's a 1.4% vacancy rate. I'm sure you all saw the New York Times article last week. And that shortage is why rents in Manhattan are so high, over $5,500 average, over $4,400 median. It is why we have record homelessness and displacement. And we have to build a ton more housing. So anything that reduces the speed and volume of that housing creation has to really, really have a very good reason. And I think this policy is so clearly a benefit. And so, yeah, I just want to really affirm the importance of housing creation of all types, and especially the trade-offs really having to be thought through. And so, you know, the extra information we might get with an extra 45 days, et cetera, like this adds burden, it adds time, it slows things down, it makes the homes unbuilt, and it makes the families unhoused. I think that's all I'll say. I'll also just say one more thing. For climate change, the superpower of New York City is that it is dense and walkable. And so adding housing stock in the 5 boroughs is the best way we can exert our power to bring people together so they don't have to drive and they can, you know, live in the most climate friendly place on earth. So more homes in general is the best climate action we can take, especially if building those homes has no adverse environmental impact. We absolutely should be fast tracking it. We should be approving it with no provisions to weaken it or water it down. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryder. I think Susanna, you. Okay, Frederica, please stay close to the stand so you'll be clearly on camera for everyone. Thank you.
I agree with what Ryder said. More housing is more housing. But I want you to know that in the coming months, we're going to be dealing with the City of Yes for housing opportunities. And that will be an opportunity for us to talk more about affordable housing. That is going to be a very large and complex proposal that comes to the Land Use Committee in the next few months. And the presentations on the various aspects of it are already underway, and you can find them on YouTube under the DCP channel.
Thank you, Frederica. And Will?
Thank you. So I had just a bit of a question and then perhaps a comment, but mainly regarding point 6 on the therefore be it resolved. I was curious how we came up with this year 2100 future floodplain criteria. Is there any color there? And then I have a comment on that as well, depending on the answer, I guess.
You know, when we did this, we looked to, I think.
Want me to help? If you,
I'm sorry? Yeah, the year 2100 is the furthest out. So, I mean, I think we were looking to make sure that that we were included in the list of coastal road districts. Basically, from our perspective, CB2 doesn't have any of the coastal road districts that they currently are using as criteria. And so we went and looked at the furthest out, and that's what drove us to criteria for number 6.
Okay, yeah, I just want to be clear because, the city uses different measures.
Mhm.
And if you think back, our committee, we did a lot of work on the various floodplains. If you think back to the zoning for coastal resiliency resolution that we passed, the specific measures that the city uses in the zoning text are the 1% and the 0.2% annual floodplains. When you start to talk about a 2100 floodplain, that becomes highly speculative. And that's, I don't believe, is actually incorporated into the existing zoning text. So perhaps something like a 1% or 0.2% annual floodplain is more appropriate. If you actually look at projections for the 2100 floodplain, it can vary widely. No one knows what it's going to be, right? It's over 50 years out, over 60 years out. To me, if you look at, I'm not sure what that would refer to. If we just say the 2100 floodplain, again, we'd be using some projection. And to me, that's a bit vague to say whatever someone says 2100 floodplain is going to be. We're just going to say you can't do the green fast track there. So I don't know if there was any openness to making that a little more detailed, but to me, that's a little bit too vague for me. And some projections you can look at, it's very massive what people are saying. I mean, right, it's a lot could change between now and 2100. So you're sort of taking out a huge massive land as sort of a carve out if you're just relying on this kind of vague projection.
Well, I think given the, your committee's done a lot of work on the coastal floodplains, are there specifics that you would recommend that could help align us with, the official CB2 position that we have on this?
Yeah, I mean, the CB2 position, I don't know if it's a more CB2 position or what the city's actually using in the zoning text, which would just make it easier to have like a finite recommendation. So something like a 1% annual floodplain, for instance, would be something that's more in line with what I've seen the city actually refer to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd be open to having, a refinement of that number 6. Like I said, we went the furthest out, but if you feel that, I'm hearing that your 2100 might be too speculative.
Well, it's just that I don't know if there's any central source that folks agree on for what it's going to be. But that's my, I mean, and if you look at just what's proposed in the text versus any kind of floodplain, I mean, it is a massive change in what the.
Will,
what
do
it
you
looks
have,
like.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do
No,
you
I-
have
I-
a specific, a text that you can propose as amendments so that it's clear to everyone exactly what you're talking about?
I mean, I don't necessarily have one. I mean, to me, I would maybe take out 6 because it's just so vague. But I mean, I'm open to other ideas. But I just wanted to point out that it's a very big change, right? Versus what was initially proposed, right? You're talking about a huge percentage of the land of New York City. So I just wanted to raise, I don't necessarily have an amendment. I mean, if others want to talk about it, they can, but that's a point I wanted to raise.
Well, either, I mean, if you think that it diminishes the resolution, then you can make a motion to strike number 6. And then if you put that on the floor, we can vote on it. We can discuss that first of all, if anybody.
Second.
I'm sorry, Katie, go ahead. I have a hand up on
Yes.
mine.
I just want to point out, we do want this, the purpose of this section, the committee wanted to have it as strong as possible. And we know that there are 6 designated special coastal risk districts that the city is talking about, and none of them are in CB2. So in following along with experts at MAS, Municipal Art Society, the 2100 was suggested, but we definitely, the committee wants it to be strong, and include areas of our community board which aren't being included in the text that the city is proposing. Is that helpful, Will?
Yes, I mean, another idea would be, instead of just saying we're going to exclude the entire floodplain, you could suggest that the city liaise with community boards to, in order to look for other potential, special risk districts to add in. So for instance, areas of our district that we knew were heavily impacted by Sandy, we could perhaps include that, right? And that's less vague and that's more specific. So for me, it's just tough for me to wrap my head around something that's like that broad.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, going back to, and thanks for referencing Sandy, I mean, that was part of our discussion in the committee is that, you know, there are areas in our districts, you know, Canal Street, you know, areas of that are, you know, some of the lowest points in Manhattan that we know represent significant flooding issues, but they were not they would be excluded from, you know, the 6 specific districts that DCP put forward. So again, if you have some specific text that you'd like to put forth as an amendment, I think would be open.
I don't know if there's enough support, but I would propose just taking out 6. That's my proposal.
That is a
Second.
motion, and we have a second on that motion. Okay, is there any other discussion on that motion? Yeah, do you want to discuss that motion? Well, actually, let's first talk about the motion that's on the floor first. Okay. Is there any additional discussion on that motion? Yes, Katie.
As I stated before, I am opposed to taking it out because that really, even though Will is pointing out that our language, he doesn't think our language is strong enough, it is one of the weaknesses that we found in their program. And we're trying to strengthen the program, and other people have said we weren't strong enough. We're trying to do something that approaches our community board. We could leave the language in and add, we could add something, you know, specific about the low-lying areas of CB2, that we want those low-lying areas of CB2 to be included. That would be a way to talk about it.
I would be okay with that instead of drawing on your.
You guys talk on the mic. Gotta talk on the mic.
Okay, then you have to withdraw your motion and then give me a substitute.
Okay, yes, I would withdraw and just, instead of putting the 100-year floodplain across the city, as you said, Katie, I would propose putting in language about the specific areas within CB2 being added.
Okay.
That's what.
You have that language now?
Well, I know.
I think that I think we can put that together. I think that's clear enough in terms of what we're talking about, specifically low-lying areas within the CB2 district. So
Okay, that's great.
there you go. Okay, we now have that motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on it? I assume, Katie, that your hand is up from previously.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions or recusals? Okay, that amendment is now passed. Please, Suzanne.
Ryder said it with much more preparation and much more articulately than I can say, but I wanted to make a point about the supply of housing. We talk about affordable housing and we want affordable housing, but the Furman Center has shown that the increasing the supply of any housing decreases the pressure on demand and hence lowers housing costs. Secret is quite onerous. We've seen EIS, we've seen environmental impact statements. They're thousands of pages long, and I think that they add quite a lot to the development of housing. So I am in favor of fast tracking. And but I think the reason I wanted to make a comment was just to have us understand that in our neighborhood, yes, people want luxury housing, but increasing the supply of housing overall, whether it's luxury, low market, whatever it is, subsidized, not subsidized, is really something that is critical for the city at this point.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any more hands up, so I'm going to ask for.
I do have my hand up.
I'm sorry, Katie, your hand is up again.
Yeah. I just want to say that our committee and our community board is totally in favor of affordable housing and expanding housing in our neighborhood. Our fight that we are leading on 388 Hudson Street shows that. And we may have more opportunities like that. And I look forward to supporting them in any way possible. However, we have safety issues that are not going to be addressed through this fast track housing proposal, and also taking away our voice, and the voice of our community, even though we don't always agree with them, I think is detrimental to the process. So I don't see any way that we're not going to keep fighting for more housing in our neighborhood. But I do think that this is overstepping. This process is overstepping, and we're going to have, perhaps with the City of Yes Housing Opportunity, we'll have more chances to be impactful on this topic. But I'm not in favor of what's in front of the fast track housing as it stands.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more hands up with regards to discussion of this resolution, so I will take if there's no objection, I will move to vote on this item. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay,
Nay.
it's not clear what it is, what this is, so I am going to ask for a roll. I'm sorry, Chris, your hand is up. Okay, but I've got sort of a weak yes and a weak no, so in the interest of getting it right, I'm gonna ask for a roll call so that we have it.
Okay, Susanna Aaron? No. Banesh?
Oh, just to point, it is as amended with the language change in number 6.
Keen?
No.
Booth?
Yeah.
Wardenaro?
Yes.
Brandt? Yeah. Brenna, no. Pecapolo?
No.
De La Rosa? Abstain. Dignas?
No.
Mark Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Gammy?
Yes.
Gruber?
Yes.
Hager?
No.
Kazaz? Are you there, Zach? All right, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, abstain.
You're abstaining. Okay. Kent?
Yes.
Kessler?
No.
Kylie?
No.
Laria?
Yeah.
Michael Levine?
Levine is yes.
Ma?
Yes.
Metzger?
No.
Olson? Yes. Holt?
Yes.
Raftery? Yes. Rackoff? Yes. Riccobono?
Yes.
Secunda? Abstain. Okay. Siegel? Yes.
26号。
Yeah, can someone turn off Ed's? Okay. Dr. Shirley Smith? Yes. Spence?
Yes.
Wittenberg? Yes. You?
Yes.
Okay, it passes. 22, yes, wait, hold on. Yes, 22 yes, 10 no.
Okay, it passes. 10 no's. And how many
Oh,
abstains?
abstains, I'm
That's
sorry,
correct.
it didn't count.
That's not the total, the final.
Yeah. Abstentions, I'm not sure why. Okay. The abstains are, I'm sorry, I didn't count the abstentions. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so no's and abstentions are 13 total and yeses are 22. That's the final vote. Okay, moving on, next is schools and education.
We had one resolution and the title of which is Inclusion of Guidelines for Conduct for Parent Members of School Leadership Teams, Council Education, Community Education Councils and Parent Teacher Associations, and penalties for violations in accordance with Chancellor's regulation on student-to-student discrimination, harassment, intimidation, or bullying, Chancellor's Reg A 832 with specific penalties for violations. I'm going to summarize the therefore be resolved, is that okay with you? Community Board 2 demands that New York City Department of Education acknowledges the need to address the behavior of parents serving on school leadership teams, community education councils, and parent-teacher associations in accordance with Chancellor Reg A 832 regarding student-to-student discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and/or bullying. CB2 calls on Chancellor David Banks and the New York City Department of Education to require adherence to these guidelines by parent members with specific penalties for violations, including verbal and written warnings, suspensions from involvement, and permanent removals from their roles. Additionally, they encourage the establishment of clear procedures for investigating and addressing violations while affirming the importance of inclusive and safe school environments for all students, including LGBTQ+ youth. And finally, CB2 urges the New York City Department of Education to communicate these expectations and penalties to parent members of all relevant bodies to foster a positive and inclusive school community. And the vote was unanimous.
Thank you, Patricia. Is there any discussion of this resolution or any questions about it? Okay, seeing none, I will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions or recusals? Okay, it passes. Thank you. Next is street activities.
Okay, so we had a very productive meeting this last month. We had representatives from SAPO and CECM come in over Zoom, and they presented to us for around 2 hours. It was a great discussion. We covered a very wide range of topics. There is no resolution as of yet, as we continue to digest what was talked about. I know there's been some asking for a report of that, and we will work on that. I think there's going to be some discussion of moving towards a sort of handbook for events in CB2. And that's something our committee is going to be working over for the next couple of months on. I would say, just in terms of kind of the major topics covered, we did try to touch on the major issues that folks have raised with many of the street events that we've had over the last couple of years. So we touched on things like enforcement, and we learned that, for instance, that SAPO does in fact track reported violations of permits and events without permits. So for instance, that's things that we could actually submit to them and they would track it in their system. We touched some of the timing issues that we faced in the past. So with street event smalls, for instance, that have a 14-day time window before which they have to apply for the event. Obviously, that's tough to address in a full board setting. So one way to address that, for instance, would be for us to pass a sort of generic resolution as a board that actually gives authority to submit comments on those kind of events subject to a set of certain criteria. So that's something that's going to be discussed in future meetings. We want to have an open forum on that, and allow folks in the community, allow board members to talk about it as we sort of try to come to more specific guidelines for those kind of events. So I think that was a real positive that came out of that meeting. That's something we're going to be looking at. Some fun facts. I think we are the third most street events in our district out of any district in the city, only surpassed by a couple of districts in Brooklyn that have a ton of block parties supposedly. I mean, I guess they do. All in all, it's a good meeting. There's been a lot of turnover at SAPO. It is good to really establish what I think is the start of a good connection with the current new SAPO director who came in last year after over a year of having an interim director. And so we're hoping that this is a more regular dialogue that we have with them. So if you have any more questions, ask me. We will work on some more details of kind of what was discussed. And we'll start to, I think, put together over the coming months some draft guidelines, and then that will be a topic for a future meeting. I go over the resos. I just wanted to give that quick report.
Michael, was there something you wanted to before he goes over the resos?
Yes, I just want to give one addition to Will's excellent report. In response to our question to them, how do we handle no-shows, when applicants do not show. And the response was, continue to do what you're doing, say deny because they did not appear. We've often wondered if that's the strongest thing to do, and they agreed, continue that practice. If they do not appear, say denied because if they did not appear. We felt that was positive reaffirmation of the policy we have been following for years. Thank you, Will, again for inviting them. It was an excellent meeting.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Valerie.
I would just say, I know you're gonna do a summary report later, but maybe add one line that just says that the presentation was here for the record of
Oh, okay.
during that. I would just say, just for the record.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. You mean just to add it to the minutes, the final minutes? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the actual rezos, so, you know, number one, fashion brand event, sponsor Idaco Worcester between, Broome and Spring. Unanimous, these are all unanimous, by the way. This was a unanimous approve. February 16th through 20th, Sol de Janeiro, Gansevoort Plaza, the 14th Street Plaza, not the one where we usually see events. That was unanimous approve. Revlon pop-up, February 17th, Broadway between Grand and Howard. Unanimous approved. We also noted some alternatives about placement of the cart in the reso. That was unanimous. Number 4, February 22nd, BMF Neutrogena branded coffee cart. This is on the south side of 14th between University and Broadway. Obviously, that's a very tough location. We recommended that they recommended approve and recommended that they consider some alternative placements rather than what's probably one of the busiest blocks in the city. Number 5, February 29th, Skechers, Broadway between Prince and Spring. That was unanimous approved. We had a couple other additional, therefore be it resolves on that one about alternative placement for the line. And we also wanted to specifically note to SAPO and NYPD on this one. This was the one that Pete Davies had mentioned where there's a celebrity involved. So we wanted to flag that to NYPD. And then number 6, Planet Oat Daylight Savings, Astor Place Plaza, March 11th. That was a unanimous approval.
Thank you, Will. Does anyone want to call any of these items out for discussion or has questions about them? Yes, Shirley, go ahead. Yes, please.
Okay, so number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the fifth whereas says it exactly what the conditions are on 14th Street between University Place and Broadway, in which I gather the committee recognized too, that it is tremendously busy and crowded sidewalk. I'm just wondering if we could be a little stronger in our resolve and include, instead of just saying recommend, actually say that approval based on the applicant doing the alternative of placing the cart in the curb, etc.
It's already happened today. Which again is this is the kind of thing that we would hope to resolve in the future with sort of more permanent guidelines. It's exactly this, right? By the time we vote, it's happened.
Okay, Amy.
I went by there today. I got my samples, which was nice. It was not a problem. It was a small cart like they said it would be. There was a few people there and it wasn't a problem at all.
Good to know. Any other of those items anyone wants to discuss? Okay, seeing none, we have got items, we have resos 1 through 6, and then the FYIs are 7 through 12. And I will take those together. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Yes.
Yeah. I don't think we can technically vote on 12, so I put that as a separate. FYI.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. It is through 11. Okay, my mistake. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Abstentions or recusals? Okay, Donna Raftery is on is a recusal on resolution number 2. Okay, voting member, meatpacking bid board. Any others? Okay, then it passes. So then we move to traffic.
Okay, here I am. So we have two resolutions, both approved unanimously. Resolution number one was in response to the MTA New York City Transit presentation on elevator replacements at the West 4th Street, 14th Street Union Square, and 14th Street 8th Avenue subway stations, as well as escalator replacements at the West 4th Street subway station. And I did a summary of our recommendations as follows. Okay, so first is why not just repair, clean up, and upgrade the still working elevators instead of spending funds for full replacements for them? And use the funds served for elevator installments at stations where there are none, or for other ADA accessibility. Two, instead of the, let me just make sure I see this stuff, okay. Instead of the time-consuming, difficult alternatives New York City Transit is suggesting, like taking trains to, in one direction to connect to the other direction, increase bus service frequency, have pre-scheduled bus schedules, predictable bus schedules, and provide dedicated bus lanes on needed routes where there are none, even if it's temporary, to decrease the trip times by avoiding other traffic incursion. Three, provide free shuttle bus service at 3 stations. 4, widely disseminate information about the elevator replacements to alert users both in advance and when they're at the station. For instance, distributing notifications to local groups for dissemination, having big, clear, readable signs outside at the station's entrances, and inside having personnel on hand to direct people and broadcasting public announcements. 5, set up a strict maintenance schedule to regularly clean and maintain the elevators. And 6, consider a fare reduction at the 3 stations in keeping with the service reductions for the prospect's duration. So that's.
What is Shirley reading from? That's not in our packet.
No, I said I'm doing a summary. Yeah, it is in the packet. The whole resolution is in the packet. It's resolution number 1. I just summarized what's the way it. I did the summary of the results because they were very long.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
What's going on?
Okay, okay, so the second resolution. That. Okay, so the second resolution is in support of universal daylighting and resolve that CB2 strongly supports the application of universal daylighting as standard policy within our district and throughout New York City in concert with the New York State law, and urges the City Council to enact legislation to that end and the DOT to follow through with a broad program of daylighting implementation. Further resolved, urges including in the requirement physical barriers beyond just parking enforcement and signage, such as planters, substantial bollards, granite blocks, or bioswales, all under 3 feet high or at or under eye level, that define the daylighting space and safeguard those using it from harmful vehicular incursion while providing needed self-enforcement of the allocated space. Be it further resolved that CB2 recommends that DOT incorporate daylighting whenever any street paving is done. And lastly, finally, CB2 asks that CB2 and other community boards be given the option as part of the requested universal daylighting program to select sites identified as particularly vulnerable and or dangerous in its district to be given priority for quick daylighting implementation, remediation.
Thank you, Shirley. Is there anyone want to discuss either of those two resolutions? Any questions about either one?
Yes.
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Shirley, just have,
Oh,
Shirley,
there.
No,
Hi,
Brian is
Shirley.
right in front of you.
Oh, there, okay.
I just had one question on the second resolve, and that is, it says all under 3 feet high at or under eye level. Isn't that a contradiction of terms or conflicting
Or-
terms?
Well, in other words, really, it's eye level is about 3 feet high. Any higher than 3 feet.
It is?
Oh, yeah, that's what I.
appears- Well, I guess for me it is. Okay, then maybe we should just say under 3 feet high. The basic idea being that anything above 3 feet obscures visibility.
I would suggest that
accept.
amend to eliminate at or under eye level, because that's not a measured height and 3 feet is, so that
Okay.
would, 3 feet would.
I accept.
Oh, well, it's not, except, a proposed amendment. Is any discussion? If not, then I will second. All those in favor? Okay,
Aye.
the text is now amended to reflect that removal. Okay. Okay, is there any further discussion on either of these? Seeing none, all those in favor of 1 and 2?
Aye.
Against? Abstentions or recusals? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have resolutions out of executive. Susanna, why don't you start?
Hi there. You all know, I presume that Mount Sinai Beth Israel is proposing to close the Beth Israel Hospital before the end of the year. And we had hoped to have a meeting on this topic as other CBs have had, CB5, CB3, I don't know about CB4. We had a joint meeting planned for February 8th, and we were excited because the Department of Health, the State Department of Health was going to attend, so we would get answers to a lot of questions about what the process is for closing a hospital. Hospitals are required, they're licensed by the state, they're required to submit a closure plan to the state, and that closure plan has to be approved by the state in order for the hospital to close. Right before we held our meeting, a lawsuit was filed against Mount Sinai Beth Israel in the hopes of enjoining them from closing the hospital. And of course, once you file a lawsuit, no one will talk about the topic at all. So we canceled our meeting. That is why instead of being a resolution that comes through committee, this is a letter or resolution that came through the executive committee. I think that we have enough information to be able to raise objections to the closure plan based on what is outlined in the resolution. So therefore be it resolved that in the absence of answers to pressing questions about the impact that Beth Israel's closure would have on this community's access to healthcare, especially general, pediatric, and psychiatric emergency services, CB2 Manhattan strongly opposes the closure plan of Mount Sinai Beth Israel and urges the New York State Department of Health to reject the current application for closure and to conduct a rigorous audit of MSBI's claims. MSBI is Mount Sinai Beth Israel. Number 2, given the temporary and permanent gaps in service that would be the result of closing Beth Israel's emergency department, CB2 Manhattan strongly opposes approval of its closing unless and until adequate alternatives that are reasonably proximate to the CB2's district are identified. That vote that's unanimous just came from the executive committee.
Thank you, Susanna. Is there any questions, any discussion of this resolution?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, who is,
David, do you want to give him a mic?
no, David, yes, please. We need to hear you on mic.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I love the resolution, but I just want to add that the Manhattan Ear and Eye Hospital, which is also part of what's being proposed, for closure is a very important facility just outside of our community board. It is actually the only ear and eye hospital that has a clinic that serves the that focuses on the underserved population of Manhattan. And I just would like to add that on to the letter.
I don't feel equipped to do that. We've had meetings about the closure, the closure plan for Beth Israel does not regard Ioneer. I know that Ioneer has been under discussion, but it's not part of this closure plan. And it hasn't been directly part of conversations that I've been involved with. So I don't really feel comfortable opining on Ioneer. I know that it's under discussion. I know that it's been threatened. And we might be able to take that up under a separate letter, but we haven't had a meeting about it, and I haven't been to a meeting.
I thought this was a resolution that came out of executive session.
It came out of executive session, yes, right, you're right.
So
But
why is it to you to accept it or not?
It's not, first of all, no amendment is accepted or
fair.
not accepted. The point is
That's a
that
fair point.
this is about a particular closure plan. And I think Suzanne is saying that what you're bringing up is beyond the parameters of that plan.
No, but David is correct. I'm responding as if it was a committee resolution. It isn't. You're absolutely right. So I take that back. So in that case, I'll just respond to your suggestion as just someone who knows the issue a little bit. If you want to have an amendment, go ahead and do it. I don't feel comfortable voting on Ioneer because I have not been privy to any meetings specifically about Ioneer, and this closure plan does not address Ioneer.
Okay, I have another idea in that Manhattan Ear and Eye Hospital has been part of the disclosure. I mean, I'm not as close to it as yours, Suzanne, for sure. But part of the closure plan does include that as part of the Mount Sinai enclosure. I mean, that's been a big issue.
I know it has been a big issue, but if you go onto the Mount Sinai website and you look at the closure plan, which is an official document that is submitted to the state, and there's all kinds of regulations about what it must include, it does not mention Ioneer. It does not mention intention of closing Ioneer. That's not part of this closure plan.
Then
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. I don't personally know much about that. And I don't know what MSBI's plans are with it, but you're right.
let me just say this about that. So even if it's not formally part of Mount Sinai's website, I know for a fact that the Manhattan, it's a very important facility. Manhattan Ear and Eye is it's the only clinic that serves an underserved community. And so even though it may not be part of the website, I don't know why it's not. I don't see a downside in including that in our statement.
May I just interrupt? If while it is a very important facility, doesn't it therefore merit a discussion at a committee meeting? That that could really have a resolution that is tailored to addressing that, because it doesn't appear that anyone's provided us with any detailed information on the fate of that.
My understanding about Ioneer is that this has been a conversation that's been going on for a while, but it isn't part of the specific closure plan. But I should say that again, because as you're right, this resolution comes out of executive committee. If there is language that you'd like to propose as an amendment, along with anyone else, will listen
Referring
to
to what our chair is saying, if you're going to hold a meeting about it, a discussion, I'll defer to that. But if you're not, then I would like to propose an amendment to this reso. If you're not going to have a separate meeting to discuss Manhattan, it's actually Ear and Eye Hospital.
I don't have current plans to hold such a meeting. I may hold such a meeting, but I think that if you're interested in an amendment that specifically addresses it, it would make more sense for you to introduce that language and propose it, and rather than rely, because if you have a meeting down the road, you can have.
Okay, please, no back and forth. I saw that Dr. Smith had her hand up. I want to recognize her.
Well, isn't that what we're supposed to do, have back and forth?
Well, I want to make sure that she was acknowledged, because she did have her hand up. And
I think
before we go ahead and move forward on any sort of an amendment.
I thank you for that.
I was just going to say that the idea that we're voting on is what the chair has already presented, is that I would suggest that if you decide at some point, if David decides tonight that he's not going to make a friendly resolution, that then if you decide as a committee to have the meeting about the eye and ear, then you do that. But I think what is on the floor now is what you're presenting that we should vote on, because eye and ear was not included in this particular document that you just referenced.
Go ahead. I also just want to say, now that I think about it, it's not going to be easy to have a meeting about eye and ear because no one from Mount Sinai Beth Israel or the Department of Health will speak to the public now because there's a pending lawsuit regarding Beth Israel. So I think that you should introduce whatever amendment you would like to.
Okay, just may I?
David, if you have an amendment, please.
Yeah, can I
put
just
it
say one
forward.
thing? I know that the doctors are meeting with administrators, there's really an active discussion going on about the closure. So I don't know why it's not part of it. And I appreciate that no one's going to be talking to us because of a lawsuit. They never do if there's a lawsuit pending. But I think that it's important that this community board, even if we say, even though it's not some language such as, even though it's not mentioned on the website, we want to include Manhattan Air and I as part of our concerns about the
David,
closure.
I just, to give it the attention that it's due, maybe it would be preferable to develop a resolution. It doesn't necessarily have to come through a committee. You could present it next month at new business. And you can present something that is developed and is supported by actual evidence. Not that we don't trust your understanding of it, but unlike the Beth Israel, which is based on a
Specific
it's a
closure plan.
specific published plan. It might be more credible to have something that's
But this
based
letter
on.
will have gone out by then, right? So the train is leaving the
Yes,
station.
it will, because this resolution is built around a published plan that's already got a timetable.
Yes, I mean, Beth Israel is scheduled to close in July and it's already winding down services, which is part of the lawsuit. Shall I respond?
Yeah, sure, that's what we're gonna do. Yeah.
I think that if you wanted to say something about eye and ear, I would put it in there. This is specifically about the closure plan that the DOH is going to be looking at for Beth Israel. So I don't think it's fine to put it in there. I think you're right. If we want to express how the community board feels about the potential closing of eye and ear or, plans, I think that's fine. Then I just would not be so specific with the language because we're not.
Okay, that's fair.
eye and ear
What you're
is not
saying is
a
fair enough.
Specific plan.
What you're saying is fair enough. Maybe we could wordsmith something that.
Well, it's not about, David, if you're going to provide an amendment, you must provide us with the language.
Yeah.
There isn't some fuzzy thing here.
No,
So
I
that's why I
understand.
was
I don't-
encouraging you to work on something that we can look at next month and give the attention that it deserves.
And then what, write a second letter next month?
If you would like, I will try to do that.
There's no cap on the number that we can send out. So by all, I just don't want, if it's as important as it seems to be, that maybe the best thing to do is work on something instead of putting it together on the fly.
Okay, I'll do that and I'll present documents that show that it's part of the closure program. And I will ask them that we send an additional addendum letter at next month's full board. Fair enough?
I think that's an
Yeah,
excellent suggestion.
I can't pretend to be an expert on it.
Okay,
So,
okay.
thank you
That's
very
okay.
much.
Is there anything else on this resolution? Seeing not, I will, I'm sorry, there's a hand up? I'm sorry, I can't see the folks who are sitting right in that corner.
I just have one question, Susanna. Do you think there's any point in bringing up the fact that when this community lost St. Vincent's Hospital, which was a closure that I believe was approved by the Department of Health, that one of the rationales for that was that this community would be served by Beth Israel Hospital, so that it's a bit of a bait and switch for this
Department of Health to then approve this closure. Is there any, do you feel that it's relevant to potentially make an extra point about
I
that?
think it could be relevant. We mentioned St. Vincent's, in terms of the loss of, emergency
Right, I see
facilities. But I think that reminding the Department of Health of, that we've, that was written at the time, and I'm not as familiar with those resolutions from back then. But bringing up that history, I don't think would hurt at all.
Yeah.
I would put it in a, well, I don't know, if it's not up to me to do it, but.
That's right. Again, if you have an amendment you think is appropriate, then we do need to see it so that we know precisely what we're talking about.
Okay, well, give me 3 minutes and I'll see what I can come up with.
Well, what I can do then, if you want 3 minutes, is I can move on to SLA. We'll move on to SLA 1, and then we will come back and we will.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep moving, and Donna, if you want to.
Okay, so SLA 1, we met on February 6th. We had 14 applications and 8 resolutions, and all decisions were unanimous. Raoul's Restaurant Corporation at 178 180 Prince. It's an existing OP. This is an alteration to expand the premises to 178. It's currently in 180. They came to us in 2017 and 2020 for the same thing, exact same thing, did not move forward at those times. We did deny unless with stipulations being adhered to. That was the same as what it was in 2017 and 2020. Jose Andres LLC at 115 Mulberry Street. That's an upgrade from restaurant wine to a full liquor license. Deny unless with stipulations being adhered to, unanimous. Bondi 75 Kenmare Street, doing business as Bondi Sushi at 75 Kenmare. This is an upgrade from a tavern wine to a full liquor license. Deny unless with stipulations being adhered to, unanimous. NoHo Neighbors LLC at 54 Great Jones Street, on premise for a restaurant. It's a transfer plus an expansion. That was a deny unanimous, and just an FYI, they are scheduled. We have a new 30-day notice for them to come back again next month with a quote unquote more palatable plan. So we don't have a questionnaire, no idea. In that resolution, there are 2 number 9s. The last one should be number 10. IMG Global Inc. doing business as Yakinico. Great, 210 Bowery. That's an on-premise for a restaurant and a previously unlicensed location. Deny unless with stipulations being adhered to. That one also, I think the last number on that one should be 5. Number 6, 219 Mulberry Street, doing business as Ruby's, 219 B Mulberry. It's a restaurant wine. It's an alteration to add cellar for a kitchen and storage, no patron use of the cellar, and to change the seating a little bit on the main floor. It's actually a reduction in tables, I think also in seats. Deny unless with stipulations being adhered to, unanimous. EBJR LLC, doing business as Emilio at 293 Mott. That's an upgrade from a tavern wine to a full liquor. Deny unless with stipulations being adhered to, unanimous. And Jing Fong Restaurant, 202 Center Street. This was an existing restaurant wine. They're just adding a storage warehouse to the premises. There were already stipulations in place. We waived their appearance, and that was just notification for that. And then items 9 through 14 are either layovers or withdrawals.
Thank you, Donna. Is there anyone who wants to call out any of those items, discuss any of those items? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of resolutions 1 through 8 and then 9 through 14, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions, recusals? Okay, they all pass.
Okay, SLA 2 met on February 8th, and we had 11 applications and 8 resolutions. Barbudo West LLC at 521 West Street, also known as 113 Horatio. It's an existing on-premise. It's an alteration to expand into the adjacent with a doorway separating it, but adjacent storefront on the ground floor and cellar levels.
Denial unless with stipulations being adhered to unanimous. 10 Fifth Avenue operations, doing business as a pizza bar, 10 Fifth Avenue, this is an on-premise for a restaurant, deny unless with stipulations being adhered to is unanimous. 205 Thompson Street LLC, at 205 Thompson, that's an on-premise for a restaurant, that's deny unless with stipulations being adhered to with 6 in favor and 1 opposed. South Village Hospitality Group LLC, which is Carroll Place at 157 Bleecker Street, this is an on-premise, the resolution is wrong, it's an on-premise for a restaurant. It's an alteration to change a service bar into a stand-up bar. Deny unless with stipulations being adhered to, that's unanimous. And Viejo Group LLC, doing business as Tokyo Record Bar, 127 McDougal, that's an upgrade from a tavern wine to a full liquor. Deny unless with stipulations being adhered to, that's unanimous. Washington Square Hotel LLC at 101, 105 Waverly. It's an on-premise for a hotel, it's a corporate change, deny unless with stipulations being adhered to unanimous, and GBO Hospitality, doing business as Mishik at 259A Hudson Street, on-premise for a restaurant, we heard this in March, the only thing was just to notify us that the address has been officially changed to 259A instead of 261, the building, the location, nothing's changed, it's not, hasn't moved, and nothing's changed other than that, so deny unless with stipulations being adhered to. Unanimous. Okay, thanks again. And anyone want to discuss any of those items? Call any of those out? Okay, seeing none, we've got 1 through 7 and then 8 through, and then 8 through 11. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions or recusals? Okay, they pass. Thank you. Okay, let's go back now to the Beth Israel. Hopefully we have the text. In microphone, please.
Yeah, I think we can piggyback this mention on, whereas 8. And I would suggest that whereas 8 perhaps state, whereas that in response to community concerns regarding.
Yes, go on.
Whereas that in response to community concerns regarding the closure of St. Vincent's in 2010, comma, the community was assured by DOH that we would not be underserved due to the presence of Beth Israel. And then the closing of Beth Israel as written, as continued. You know, because I think heart attack and stroke are of course the things that are top of the list here, so that this fits very well into this 8 whereas.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or any addition, anything to say about that proposed amendment? Is it clear exactly what's being added? Okay, so I will take a motion to anyone to approve that amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so. Yeah, now that is now part of the resolution. So now we are going to vote on the Beth Israel resolution. It is our final vote. So we're going to do that as a roll call.
Okay, here we go. Aaron?
Yes.
Dinesh?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry. Keen?
Yeah.
Booth?
Yes.
Fortinaro?
Yes.
Brandt?
Yeah.
Brenna, yes. Polo?
Yes.
La Rosa?
Yes.
Dignas?
Yes.
Mark Fitzgerald? Flynn?
Yes.
Gammy?
Yeah.
River?
Richard.
Hager? Yes. Pizzazz?
Yep.
Kent?
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
Hiley?
Yes.
Laria?
Yeah.
Levine?
Yes.
Ma?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Metzger.
Yes, Edma, yes.
Olson. Pape. Raftery. Rackoff.
Yes.
Riccobono.
Yes.
Secunda. Yes. Siegel. Yes.
哇，这个东西都老了，这真是疯。
Dr. Shirley Smith. Yeah. Spence.
Yes.
Wittenberg. Yeah. You.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any new business? Seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn. Okay,
moved.
thank you very much.